The moment the lawyer opened the will, the room went cold. I was still trying to process the pain of losing my grandfather Henry when my mother Eleanor stood up, placed a firm hand on her husband's arm, and declared with calm certainty, "From now on, Stephen will run the company." I blinked in disbelief. Stephen, my stepfather, the man she had married less than a year ago, the same man who had spent the last 5 months dropping subtle insults, constantly reminding me that someone my age couldn't handle real responsibility. I looked around the room. No one seemed surprised. My aunts, uncles, even some of the board members sat in silence as if this was all already decided. But there was one major issue with my mother's confident statement. I was the one who now owned the company. Just a week earlier, I had sat beside my grandfather Henry's hospital bed, holding his frail hand. His voice was weak, barely a whisper. "Clara," he said, "you're the only one I trust." Tears filled my eyes. He was the one person in my life who had always believed in me. My mother Eleanor had never hidden her disappointment in me. "Don't let them take what I built," Grandpa Henry warned, his grip tightening slightly. "They'll try, but I've prepared everything." I hadn't understood what he meant until now. As the lawyer, Mr. Davison, cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses, my mother Eleanor looked at him expectantly, ready for him to confirm her announcement. Instead, he looked directly at me. "According to Mr. Evans's will," he began, "his entire estate, including all shares in Evans Industries, has been left to his granddaughter, Clara Evans." The silence in the room was suffocating. All eyes snapped toward me. "That must be a mistake," my mother Eleanor said sharply. "He meant to leave it to me." The lawyer stayed calm. "I assure you there is no mistake. Clara is the sole heir, effective immediately. She owns the company." Stephen was the first to react, chuckling like it was some kind of joke. "Sweetheart, you can't be serious," he said, looking at me like I was a little girl pretending to play CEO. "A business like this needs real experience. This isn't a school project." I said nothing. I just watched them. Then, as the truth settled in, my mother Eleanor's expression shifted to rage. "If that's how it is," she snapped, her voice tight and cold, "then get out of her house immediately." I stared at her, stunned. "Our house?" I said, then actually laughed. "You mean Grandpa Henry's house? You might want to read the will a little more carefully, Mom. I think there's another surprise waiting for you." The room fell into a heavier silence. My mother Eleanor's face went pale. Her lips pressed into a thin line as if she was fighting back a scream. Stephen, now visibly nervous, kept glancing between me and the lawyer, his confident smirk gone. I had expected pushback, but not this fast. "You're joking," my mother Eleanor finally hissed. "Grandpa Henry would never do this. He would never leave everything to you instead of me." The lawyer adjusted his papers again, calm and unaffected. "Mr. Evans made his intentions very clear. Clara is the sole beneficiary of his estate, including his home, all financial assets, and 100% of Evans Industries." I barely had time to take it all in. I had expected the company maybe, but the house, the entire estate. My mother Eleanor must have realized it too, because her anger turned into something darker. "If that's the case," she said coldly, "then you are no longer welcome in this house. Pack your things, leave." The silence that followed was almost laughable. Had she just kicked me out of my own home? I let out a slow breath, trying not to laugh again. "Mom," I said gently, "I think you misunderstood something. This house, it's mine now. Grandpa Henry left it to me." Her face twitched like she couldn't quite process what she was hearing. "That's ridiculous," she said, her voice rising. "This is our family home, and now," I replied calmly, "I'm the only legal family member who owns it." Stephen finally stepped in, wearing his usual condescending smile. "Clara, sweetheart," he said, in that patronizing tone I'd come to know too well. "You're young. You don't understand the pressure that comes with running a company. It's not just an inheritance. It's a full-time responsibility. Your mother and I have years of experience. Let us help you." There it was, the truth behind their act. This had never been about family. It was about control. They had assumed the company would go to my mother Eleanor and she'd quietly hand it over to Stephen. That was the plan. But instead, Grandpa Henry gave it all to me. And now I was the only one standing in their way. I folded my arms and met his gaze without blinking. "Let me get this straight," I said. The moment you both realized you weren't getting the company, Mom tried to kick me out of my own house. And now you're saying I should trust you to run everything? You think I'm that naive?" Stephen's smile faltered, but he kept it plastered on. "That's not what I meant," he said, forcing a chuckle. "I just think—" "No," I cut him off. "I think I understand perfectly. You both expected Grandpa Henry to hand everything to Mom. You were already planning your takeover, but he saw right through you. That's why he left it all to me." My mother Eleanor slammed her hand on the table, her expression shifting from furious to desperate. "You don't know what you're doing," she snapped. "This is $1 billion business. You can't run it just because you got lucky in a will." The lawyer, who had been silently watching, cleared his throat. "Actually," he said, "Mr. Evans anticipated this. He made arrangements to ensure a smooth transition for Clara, my mother." Eleanor turned to him, eyes narrowed. "What kind of arrangements?" The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Evans appointed a team of trusted advisors. They'll help guide Clara as she steps into her role as CEO. The board has already been informed. All legal documents have been finalized." A wave of relief swept through me. Grandpa Henry had known. He had expected them to challenge his decision to try and manipulate me. So, he made sure I wouldn't face it alone. Stephen's expression turned dark, the mask slipping from his face. He leaned toward my mother Eleanor and muttered under his breath, but I still heard him. "We can fight this." But the lawyer shook his head firmly. "You cannot. The will is airtight. There is nothing to contest." I watched the last bit of control drain from my mother Eleanor's face. She had spent my entire life treating me like I was less capable, less worthy. In her mind, she was the rightful heir. She never imagined a world where she wasn't the one in charge. Now she had nothing. She looked at me like I'd taken everything from her. "You're making a huge mistake," she said finally. "You think this is a win? Running a company isn't a game, Clara. You'll fail." I met her glare with quiet confidence. Then I leaned in just enough for her to hear me. "I guess we'll see, won't we?" The air in the room felt thick with tension. My mother Eleanor's fingers curled into fists on the polished table. Stephen sat rigidly beside her, jaw clenched as if barely holding back his frustration. This wasn't how things were supposed to go for them. In their minds, I was the weak link, the girl they could shove aside, the one they could control. But Grandpa Henry had seen me. He had seen my strength, and that's why he chose me. "This doesn't make sense," my mother Eleanor said, her voice shaking with emotion. "Dad would never do this to me. I'm his only daughter. Why would he cut me out completely?" I turned to the lawyer, wondering the same thing. Grandpa Henry and I had always been close, but still, why had he made such a bold move? Maybe he knew something I didn't. Maybe this was just the beginning. Even I hadn't expected Grandpa Henry to leave her with nothing. The lawyer let out a quiet breath and folded his hands neatly on the table. "Mr. Evans left a letter explaining his decision," he said. "He asked that I read it aloud, in case there was any confusion." He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sealed envelope, and carefully opened it. I watched as my mother Eleanor shifted in her chair, clearly uncomfortable. The lawyer began reading. "Clara, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. And by now, I'm sure your mother is furious. She'll say it's unfair. She'll claim everything should have gone to her. But the truth is, she gave up that right a long time ago." I glanced at my mother Eleanor. Her lips were pressed into a tight, straight line. Her face gave nothing away. "Your mother always believed money equals power. But she never understood that real power comes with responsibility. I gave her chance after chance to prove she could lead this family's legacy. But instead, she chased shortcuts. She chose luxury over leadership, self-interest over sacrifice." The words were blunt, brutal even, but they were true. My mother, Eleanor, had always seen the company as her birthright, never something she had to earn. The lawyer continued. "She thought being my daughter entitled her to my fortune, but inheritance isn't about entitlement. It's about trust. And as for Stephen, if he's in the room, I imagine he's doing a poor job of hiding who he is. I've seen through him for a long time. He's not a partner. He's an opportunist. A man who married into my family, hoping to take what I built. I won't let my life's work fall into his hands." Stephen's face turned beet red. I could practically feel the heat of his fury, but he kept quiet, his jaw clenched tight. The letter went on. "Clara, you are different. You never asked me for anything. And that's exactly why I chose you. You worked. You listened. You respected the business, not for what it could give you, but for what it meant. I watched you grow season after season, asking questions and taking notes while others brushed you off. And I knew you're the only one I can trust to carry this forward. My heart thudded hard in my chest. All those summers first spent shadowing Grandpa Henry, just trying to learn, while my mother Eleanor rolled her eyes. He'd been watching. He saw me. This won't be easy, the letter continued. Your mother will fight you. Stephen will try to manipulate you. But I didn't leave you unarmed. I left you with the people, the support, and the preparation you need. You're not alone, the lawyer finished, and gently returned the letter to the envelope. The silence that followed was sharp. My mother Eleanor was shaking. Whether from anger or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. This is insane, she spat. He was old. He was sick. He didn't know what he was doing when he wrote that will. Actually, the lawyer said calmly, Mr. Evans updated his will just 2 months ago. He was perfectly healthy. And legally, there is nothing you can do to contest it. Stephen suddenly stood, shoving his chair back so hard it scraped the floor. We're wasting our time, he muttered. Let's go. But my mother Eleanor didn't follow him. She stayed seated, staring straight at me. You think you can handle all this? She asked coldly. You think you're ready? I met her stare without flinching. Yes, I said simply. That night, I barely slept, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. I had just inherited an empire. I was going to be CEO of a billion-dollar company and I hadn't even turned 27. It was overwhelming, but Grandpa Henry believed in me. That belief was the only thing keeping me steady. The next morning, I arrived at the company headquarters for my first official board meeting. Just like Grandpa Henry had promised, his team of trusted advisors was waiting for me. I wasn't alone, but as I stepped out of my car, I heard a voice behind me. Clara. I turned. My mother, Eleanor, and Stephen were standing at the entrance. Their faces were calm, too calm. We need to talk, my mother, Eleanor said smoothly. Just the three of us. No lawyers, no board members, just family. But I already knew this wasn't about family. This was their last attempt, their final move. They had lost the legal battle and now they wanted to negotiate. They couldn't steal the company. So they tried to charm, to reason, maybe even to guilt me. But it wasn't going to work. I stood tall, looking at the three people who had underestimated me from the start. This was my company now, and I wasn't giving it up. We need to talk, my mother Eleanor said. Her voice was eerily calm, which only made the tension worse. I took a slow breath. I wasn't scared of them anymore. Then talk, I replied flatly. Stephen glanced around the hallway, lowering his voice. Not here, somewhere private. I should have walked away. I should have ignored both of them, but something inside me, curiosity, or maybe stubbornness, wanted to hear what they had to say, just to see what move they'd make next. Fine, 10 minutes, I said. We ended up in a small conference room in the building. Stephen sat down like he owned the place, while my mother Eleanor stood rigidly, arms crossed, eyes sharp and watchful. You're in over your head, Clara, she said softly, almost like she cared. Your grandfather Henry put too much on you. It's not fair to expect you to run a billion-dollar company at your age, I smirked. And let me guess, you think Stephen should run it instead? Yes, she said, without even pausing. At least for now. He has experience. You could learn from him. I laughed quietly and shook my head. You mean I should hand everything over and step aside like a good little girl? Stephen leaned forward, his smile too perfect to be real. Not exactly. We're offering a partnership. I raised an eyebrow. You'd still be the face of the company, he said smoothly. You'll keep your title, but I'll handle the operations. No stress, no board meetings, no difficult decisions. You get your life back. So, I'd be a figurehead? I asked. It's the best setup, my mother Eleanor chimed in. The board will feel more secure, and you won't have to carry the weight. One mistake could destroy everything your grandfather built. You're still so young, Clara. There it was. The manipulation hidden behind concern, the fear tactics, the veiled insults. I leaned back in my chair. And what exactly do I get out of this? Stephen smiled like he'd just landed the deal of the century. A share of the company's revenue, deposited into your account each month. You'll never have to worry about money again. Travel, relax, live your life. Meanwhile, the company stays in safe hands. They thought I'd just hand everything over. I pretended to think it through. And what if I say no? My mother Eleanor's face darkened. Don't be reckless, Clara, meaning, you'll have enemies, she said carefully. The board doesn't trust you. The shareholders will challenge every decision. If you choose not to work with us, we won't shield you from that pressure. So, you'll sabotage me, I said. Stephen didn't even deny it. He just smirked. I stood up slowly. Thanks for the offer, I said. But I'll take my chances. My mother Eleanor jumped up. Clara, don't do this. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my wrist. Her voice dropped to a hiss. Do you think you can win? You don't understand how this world works. Do you think your grandfather Henry helped you by giving you the company? No, he put a target on your back. The board will devour you. Investors will bury you. You need us. I looked at her, quiet but firm. No, Mom. I needed you when I was a kid. I needed you to believe in me, but you never did. You wanted me to fail just so you could take what wasn't yours. She flinched, just barely. Stephen stood too, his patience worn thin. You're making a huge mistake, Clara. Don't come running to us when it all crashes down. I smiled. I won't. Then I walked out, leaving them behind for good. But I knew it wasn't over. The moment I stepped away from them, I could feel it. They wouldn't let go so easily. And I was right. 4 days later, I walked into my first board meeting as CEO, ready for resistance. But I wasn't prepared for what was waiting. The air shifted the second I took my seat at the head of the long mahogany table. The board members, mostly older men who had been with my grandfather Henry for decades, watched me with thinly veiled doubt. Before I could even say hello, one of them, Mr. Thomas, leaned forward. Clara, before we start, he said, his voice clipped. I think we need to talk about the obvious. I set my hands on the table. And what would that be? He exchanged glances with the others as if silently asking for backup. Your grandfather Henry was a great man, but let's face it, he made a rash decision naming you as successor. You don't have the background. You don't have the experience. And frankly, he didn't need to finish the sentence. I already knew what he was going to say. They all thought the same thing, but they were about to find out. I wasn't here to play by their rules. I was here to rewrite them. We're concerned, someone said. I kept my face calm. I knew this was coming, but hearing it out loud still stung. Concerned about what? I asked. Your ability to lead. Mr. Davies glanced at his phone and sighed. The media is already spinning this. Headlines aren't kind. I checked my phone. The articles were brutal. Evans' empire in rookie hands. 27-year-old CEO. Bad move. Investors losing faith. My heart pounded, but I stayed calm. This wasn't random. It was planned, and I had a feeling who was behind it. Back in my office, I listened to the PR team's frantic messages. The media storm is spreading. Stock dipped. We think someone inside leaked damaging info. The board is talking about replacing you. So, it was true. A leadership vote was coming. A quiet coup. Stephen and my mother Eleanor wanted me out. I should have panicked. Instead, I smiled. I called the one person who could help. Mr. Roberts, my grandfather Henry's trusted partner, a business genius, and someone who hated them both. I was wondering when you'd call, he said. I need your help. Then let's remind them why your grandfather Henry chose you. That night, we built a plan. Get investors on my side. Do a powerful interview. Expose who leaked the lies. By morning, the headlines shifted. CEO fights back. Interview tonight. Corporate sabotage suspected. I wasn't safe yet, but now I was ready. Let them come. I wouldn't go down without a war. I had to be ready. The morning of the board vote had arrived. I stood outside Evans Industries, staring up at the glass tower that now belonged to me. This day would decide everything. Either I would prove my grandfather Henry made the right choice, or I'd be pushed out before I even got a chance to lead. One thing was certain. Stephen and my mother Eleanor wouldn't fight fair. Inside the boardroom, every seat was filled. These were powerful people. Most had worked with my grandfather Henry for years. At the head, Mr. Thomas, the same man who had openly questioned me days earlier. We'll begin with a vote, he announced. Concerns have been raised about Clara Evans's leadership. An alternative plan will now be presented. Right on cue. The doors opened. Stephen and my mother Eleanor walked in like they owned the place. Stephen cleared his throat and gave the room a rehearsed smile. "Let's be honest," he began. "Running this company takes experience. As much as we respect Clara," he shot me a fake smile, "we need someone with real leadership. That's why I'm offering to step in as CEO. Clara can stay involved as the public face." He sat down like the decision was already made. I let the silence sit for a moment before I spoke. "Funny, Stephen," I said calmly, "because I remember you saying something completely different in private." His face twitched. "Excuse me?" I nodded at Mr. Roberts, who sat beside me. He placed a folder on the table and slid it across to the board. "In the past week," I continued, "Stephen and my mother Eleanor worked behind the scenes to sabotage my leadership. But it wasn't just media leaks. They tried to weaken the company from within." The board members opened the folder. Inside were emails, texts, and call records. Proof that Stephen had contacted competitors trying to strike deals that would hurt Evans's market standing. Mr. Thomas frowned deeply. "What is this?" "Proof," Mr. Roberts said, calm and confident. "Proof that Stephen was working against the company while pretending to protect it." Stephen's face turned pale. "This is a setup. You can't prove." "We can," I cut in. "The media leaks. They came from a private email registered to Stephen." The room erupted in whispers. My mother Eleanor stood up, her voice sharp. "Enough, Clara. This is ridiculous. You're scared, so you're twisting things to make him look bad." I gave her a quiet smile. "I don't need to twist anything, Mom. He did that all on his own." Before she could reply, Mr. Thomas slammed his hand on the table. "That's enough," he said coldly. He looked at Stephen with pure disappointment. "You are secretly working against us. That alone makes you unfit for leadership." Stephen went pale. For the first time, he realized he had lost. "Let's vote," Mr. Thomas said. One by one, the board members raised their hands. All in my favor. Unanimous. It was done. I was officially the CEO of Evans Industries. I let out a breath I'd been holding for weeks. Security escorted Stephen out of the building. My mother Eleanor followed, her face red with shame. "You'll regret this, Clara," she hissed on her way out. I didn't answer because I wouldn't. I had finally seen the truth, and the only thing I truly regretted was trusting her for as long as I did. Later that evening, Mr. Roberts walked into my office with a satisfied smirk on his face. "You did good, kid," he said, nodding with approval. "Your grandfather Henry would be proud." I smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thanks, Mr. Roberts, for everything." He waved it off casually and stretched. "Don't mention it. Now go celebrate. You've earned it." A year passed, and everything had changed. I was no longer the unsure girl stepping into a role too big for her. I was the leader of Evans Industries. Standing at a podium before a packed crowd, I took a deep breath and began to speak. "When my grandfather Henry chose me to take over the company, a lot of people doubted me," I said. "They thought I was too young, too inexperienced." I glanced down at the business magazine resting on the stand beside me. The bold headline read, "Clara Evans, the CEO who proved them all wrong." "They didn't understand," I continued, "that success doesn't depend on age. It comes from preparation, hard work, and the strength to keep going even when the world expects you to fail." The audience erupted in applause.